The news. And I have to say, if you're a Nintendo content creator, my heart goes out to you like all the time. I don't know how you do what you do, namely because Nintendo is on the warpath. Chris, have you seen all the streamer strikes that have been going out from Nintendo own Legend of Zelda? I don't even want this highlight to include any footage of any Zelda ever, because it just seems like that's bad news.
Just to make sure I'm understanding the ones. So the only ones I've seen are people that are reacting to channels that were allowed to show some footage.
Yes.
So they whitelisted a YouTube channel to agree to a partnership that probably came with an NDA or something that they had to sign to get to play an early release, and and all of that is very covered by Nintendo. They have control of that. Reaction content, while it can be transformative, it is not by its nature transformative. A lot of times there are people just staring at the screen. They're not adding anything. They're not commentating on it. They are not under fair use. And so reaction content, saying you're reacting to something does not give you unlimited license. So I'm not siding with Nintendo here. I think Nintendo is generally the idiot in the room, but is there anybody else getting struck? So far, the only thing I have seen are people getting struck for reacting to something. And that would be like saying, oh, I'm going to react to the Super Bowl. If you want to lose your Twitch channel, you can do that. You can react to the Super Bowl. You will lose your Twitch channel.
Jaded Font says Nintendo is angry someone leaked their game 2 weeks early and now they're paranoid. And a paranoid Nintendo is, I think, probably the most dangerous or most terrifying. We've seen so many news stories as of late. If their IP wasn't so good, wasn't so beloved, it would be such an interesting story to tell, because no matter what, everybody's just like, yeah, that's Nintendo. To the point where streamers are getting struck, whether it's fair use or not, whether Nintendo's paranoid or not. At its core, I don't think anybody's hearing these stories and is genuinely shocked. Everybody just goes, oh, that sucks. That sucks for you. Now, if Microsoft did this, if Sony did this, I think you would see a different reaction altogether, because then you would ignite the passion of the rabid fan bases of one or the other. So if Xbox did this, you'd see all the Sony fanboys coming out of the woodwork. This is why, this is the reason why PlayStation, etc., and vice versa. And I'm not saying that that's good. I'm just saying that it does tell a weird, chilling story that anybody who is thinking about doing content creation with any connection with a Nintendo, I would just say be very, don't quit your day job. Do this is for fun, but be very careful when it comes to any of Nintendo's IP.
But what changed? As the guy who will never run a successful YouTube channel because I don't get hyped about things, what changed?
I think this year alone, we've seen a couple things.
What is different about Nintendo? Was it really good to be a content creator for Nintendo games last week? 2 weeks ago?
Not this year. I would say prior to 2023, there was a window, right? Because we had to go through some application process to post Nintendo games on Work to Game. So I did a couple of things with Smash Brothers and things like that back in the day. We had to go through a process of approval and revenue share of those videos with Nintendo. Eventually they got rid of that platform. And then there's been this period of kind of quiet. However, we've seen a couple of things. We've seen within Nintendo communities, Smash specifically, lots of drama, lots of accusations, lots of maybe potential crimes, and I think when anything like that starts to touch, I think their default narrative is, let's get back and control this. Let's not let this loose. And I think one of the reasons you see with Nintendo and why they're able to do it, Nintendo also doesn't rarely ever discounts their games. With the release and success of the Mario movie, we saw a small discount on Mario games for the Switch. So those are these rare occasions where, if you think about everybody else out there, if we contrast this against console and PC, I keep telling people, stop paying the hype tax. People pre-order or they get hyped, buy a game for $70, and then almost immediately you see them complaining about it online. This isn't a $70 game. And it's you're paying the hype tax. In 2 weeks, that game's going to be $40. That's how this model works, with rare exception, and Nintendo being the primary and primo example. So I think essentially when we started seeing those issues within the Smash community, and then earlier in this year with people who are modding Nintendo games and doing all these things, getting a lifetime fine, like you're going to be paying 15% of your or 30% of your paycheck to Nintendo for the rest of your life, kind of thing. I think we're kind of seeing a whole, very aggressive, like not pulling any punches, not giving anybody wiggle room to, like kind of saying the buck stops here and then nothing else.
I'm saying what Nintendo did is perfectly within their rights. And of all the companies to do it, we've always known Nintendo would do it, right? It's just like you can't watch a stream. If there's a new Borderlands announced, do not watch the stream on your Twitch channel.
Right.
Because I can promise they're going to play DMCA music. Like, I just know that about Borderlands. There's going to be some awesome song. The next Borderlands is coming out. It's going to open up to like AC/DC or something incredible. and you're going to get struck. Like, you're going to get struck.
And
so, like, there are just...
DCMA struck.
And so you know that. You know that. And so, like, when you react to Nintendo content that Nintendo's going to shut it down. Just like you can't react to a sporting event. Just like that you can't... Like, you know that.
Right.
So, like, I understand the frustration. This is the exact same feelings that people had when Twitch was put in a position where they had to start enforcing that you couldn't play licensed music. People acted like suddenly now you weren't allowed to play it, but you were before. It was always against the rules to play anything you didn't have the rights to. You just had a speed limit and no cop that could pull you over. And now they were putting a cop out with a speed gun. And people were like, well,
Wait.
I did 150 down this road last week and it was okay. It wasn't okay. They just didn't have any way of catching you. And so as enforcement tools ratchet up, we're going to see people suddenly not okay with the fact that all these rules that are written start being enforced. And so, like, I understand the frustration with, I like reacting to content. I'm excited about Nintendo games. And you and I went out to lunch this weekend. And I said, like, it's really frustrating as somebody who, like, my favorite game of all time is a Zelda game. And when I look honestly at my schedule as I work contract work and I do content creation for MMORPGs, and anytime I have for gaming outside of this, I spend gaming with people that are in my life that I don't live near. That's what gaming does for me.
Yeah.
Zelda doesn't meet any of that criteria, and I can't talk about it or cover it. Destiny 2, like, a bunch of my streams got taken down because Destiny 2 didn't have streaming in their category whitelisted the first week of Lightfall. And so it's like, well, then I guess I'm just not going to cover Destiny 2. Like, why would I not just go cover a game that's not going to strike my streams? That being said, then Final Fantasy turned around and struck me for a bunch of Heavensward music this week. So I don't know what's going on Twitch.
Yeah, somebody was asking me
Heavensward content, and
somebody was like, "Y'all still streaming?" And it's like, I can't find it. I used to I watch all your VODs, and I was like, they're all getting privated like automatically for whatever random reason in that regards. Now, to call out this, Gizmo points out that yes, the guy who was paying 30% of his paycheck, he was breaking the law. Like, he was a part of this group. He's the guy who got caught. I think the others are in countries that aren't going to extradite, so they really are just free to do whatever they want. So I'm not saying he's innocent at all. I'm just saying, like, oh my gosh, like, you ever think about, imagine 30% of your pay going to Nintendo, not voluntarily, like, in this regards. Like, I send them plenty of money for as much as they frustrate me and I complain about them. Like, I do give them money. I am the hypocrite of Nintendo.
That's why I keep doing this. Like, like, imagine any other company that could do this. No other company can do this. Like, it's not that Sony wants to not get paid for all their IP and have absolute control. It's that if they do this, people won't buy Sony products.
Right.
That's what allows Nintendo to act like this, is your, like, that behavior step on the back end that, like, it's really hard to just not own. My wife and I own 2 Switches. It's really hard to not own Nintendo products.
Right. They've got that market lockdown, and it basically, like, when we're playing poker, when you're in the lead, like, you can kind of control the table, and you don't need to give up space you don't need to give up. But the streaming thing is interesting. The content creation thing is interesting because we've seen some Nintendo games just kind of like just disappear out of the conversation and come back every so often. The biggest content creation thing for Nintendo is, when is the Switch 2? When is their next hardware? And they're coming up on the longest running hardware generation that they've ever seen, and still they're selling plenty of units to the point where you're like, well, I guess
20 million or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're gonna hit. They're breaking records. We'll have to see where they finally land it. Now, Jaded Font says, now that I think about it, I'm concerned about people who try to stream the game the second the game launches. Obviously, right now, leak streams get struck down relatively quickly, but are there going to be any false hits as we get close to the official launch because Nintendo is being overzealous? What do you think, Chris?
Nintendo can do whatever they want. So that's right. This isn't something that like Twitch did. This isn't like a random person that is a Zelda fan or a Zelda hater that did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's Nintendo. And so like the only way to know for a fact that your stream or YouTube channel will not be hit for Zelda content is to not show Zelda content. That's incredibly frustrating, but it's just the flat truth of it. Like, Nintendo has 100% rights over their IP, just like people who broadcast the Super Bowl get popped for that. And if you make as much as Aiden Ross, then maybe you can eat those fines. But like, I don't think that me reacting to a Zelda video is going to generate enough to keep Nintendo's lawyers at bay. So watching reaction videos is going to be really tough because they're trying to catch leaks. So they're going to slap those down fast. Most reaction videos, especially from top-end creators, somebody that has a lot of practice in the space, somebody like Alana Pierce, odds are that's not going to hold up. But Twitch is going to err to the side of caution because otherwise it puts the whole platform at risk. So Twitch is going to take you down midstream, just to be cautious, because if they don't, they have to deal with Nintendo, and they're not big enough either. Amazon is, but just Twitch doesn't want to deal with that. And, you know, like, it's just easier to just take it down. And like, it's a bummer that that's the world we live in, but it just is sometimes, that there's just things that it's like, we're just not going to do this thing anymore. Well, I liked doing it. I get that.
Yeah.
I get
when it comes to content creation,
stop leaks, they're going to pop everything. And that means they're going to pop reaction content because they're just going to pop anything that's not on their whitelist.
Right. When it comes down to it, what's interesting, because like, content creation has always been in this gray space for a reason. You don't see the companies themselves wanting to have it defined in court, and you don't see, like, the content creators haven't had the money or the finances or even the support within general gaming, because there's plenty of gamers out there that do not like content creation, creators, etc. And so in terms of that, any kind of lawsuit that would try and define what would be fair use coverage of streaming a game even entail, I doubt you'll ever see that come to court, because nobody wants that battle, because the companies want to have that control to be able to exercise it when they want to exercise it, but they immediately see the value in it, and they don't want to like give up that power and also then the value to it, where all of a sudden, imagine having to go through a kind of a referral process for every publisher out there to get approved. Now, Solid says it's easy just to flip the image, make it 20% opacity, have the sound off, and talk every second of the stream. Then Nintendo can't do anything. And I would say to that, Solid, not everybody's worked a game. Not everybody has the ability to talk for 6 to 10 hours straight.
Just to be clear, like, that's also like saying that if you put a tinted thing over your license plate, they can't charge you for tolls. Like, just to be clear, it is not that the rule is without our explicit permission unless we can't see it. Like, we can't do it. And so just to be clear, like, I've seen that before, like, oh, if you only use this amount of time, if you flip it to this opacity, if it only takes up this percentage of the screen, if you use just the audio, if you use just the visual, right? All of those things, none of those suddenly make it past fair use. They just make it not detectable. So all it is that the officer's speed gun doesn't see your car anymore. It doesn't make it any more or less legal to break the speed limit. It just makes it not detectable. And the problem with relying on those things is when the speed gun gets better and can detect your car, all of a sudden you're gonna have a bunch of people go, well, I've been doing the 20% opacity thing and I've been driving 150 mile an hour and now I get tickets? Absolutely. So like, there are absolutely ways to bypass the detection today. There are, but when we are having like a conversation about what should people do, and it's trying to be put in some position where somebody might take it as advice, my advice is recognize what the rule is. Have I ever exceeded the speed limit in my vehicle? Yes. The difference is, what I'm not going to do is come on stream and go, I got a ticket when I exceeded the speed limit. Isn't that crap? No, like, that's the risk that I took when I agreed to break the rule. When I exceeded the speed limit in my car, I knew that there was a chance that if I was pulled over, I would get a ticket. Like, I knew that. And so it doesn't bother me that people in life bend and break rules as long as they're not directly hurting somebody else, as a generalized thing. That's how I feel about people that want to smoke pot in their own home. I don't care. But what I don't want to hear is then a bunch of people come out and get really mad when they have consequences for the actions that they knowingly did. So like if you are showing content from a game that you know you're not supposed to be showing, and then your channel gets struck, I don't know how to feel bad for you. Like, I agree that the situation sucks, but I just don't know how to feel bad if you're doing something knowingly